you mentioned the issue of price ceiling, but I want to know how aggressive are you in terms of bet? Because it seems to be an issue, the affordability issue. And then you spoke about 79, the 21%. Is that just particularly for Kunene region, or was it for the entire population that you spoke about?
So with the pricing, we are very aggressive. We have done a study, and I think 2 weeks ago we met our operators where we have specific recommendations that we wanted to discuss with them. But our message to them and our message to the consumer is that the prices are very high and the prices must come down because they are a barrier to the utilization and enjoyment of ICT services and products. So we are quite aggressive. I think it's just a matter of time. Once the engagements have been done and are concluded, then we will inform the public on the outcome of that.
My question, I didn't want to share, even though another provider got license and to operate. I'm talking of MTN now. And there was a provider that didn't want to share their infrastructure. Is there an issue that they raised at that moment as to why they don't want to share their infrastructure in terms of the amount of people that will be on the same, bandwidth, I don't know. Is there that danger to allowing or pushing for infrastructure sharing? And on the other end, what measures are you taking in dialoguing the government when it comes to these issues that you raise in terms of affordability, access, and all of that? How aware are they with your statistics and your findings that they are able to understand the importance of that balance that you mentioned? Hence, it becomes a thing where we have to ask ourselves, is the government aware about what you are aware about, and are they choosing not to take measures, or is it a thing where we're just leaving it on the down low?
So on the infrastructure sharing, I will give you an academic answer. Normally what happens with infrastructure sharing is that for as long as you are a dominant operator, you have a license obligation to share infrastructure. Now what the framework then says is you need to look at your, your network. And if you have spare capacity, which you are not utilizing for your own needs, then you must share that spare capacity. If you want to reserve the spare capacity for your future, rollout, then you come to regulator and you say, regulator, I have 30% spare capacity that I'm not utilizing, but these are my future rollout obligations. Can you give me an exemption for sharing? Then you get that exemption. But if you don't have that exemption, then the obligation is that 30%, you must be able to share it. Now, what we get a lot of times with the complaints that come to us is that they would then come and say, but this person has 30% spare capacity, they don't have an exemption, but they are refusing to share. Or others would say, we don't have any capacity, our network is 100% fully utilized. And in such circumstances, the regulator must come in, do a network assessment, and find out whether you indeed have spare capacity. And if you do, then a directive is given for you to share. But you must remember also that the refusal to share is a competition issue per se, because refusal to share is saying that if I am providing services, you are a competitor. Now, the moment I give you capacity, then you are either going to take consumers from me, or you understand. That is where the real dynamic of it is, and this is why you have a lot of reluctance to share. But what we are saying is we look at it from a digital infrastructure and investment perspective to say it doesn't make sense. And infrastructure sharing is not just in the ICT industry. Even with the banks, they have infrastructure sharing. This is why you can belong to one bank, but if your bank is not there and you see another ATM of another bank, you can withdraw money from there. That is a typical example of infrastructure sharing. So it's nothing unique to the ICT industry. It's done everywhere. So that's really what we are saying. But the core of it is really a competition issue to say, if I don't share with you, then I keep you out and I maximize on what I'm able to get. Yeah. Sorry, you had another question.
Yes.
What was your first question again?
The second question was about the information you shared now about the limitations that CRAN is
Yes. We have a very good relationship with our line minister and our line ministry, and we have constant engagement and universal service. It's all work in progress, and our minister is well briefed on those particular recommendations.
Two more questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to make a disclaimer. The views expressed not of the ministry, but of Elizabeth Kamutfedu. As the researcher in the field of ICT, those issues can go to where they belong. Our boardrooms are open, CRAN boardrooms are open, so we tackle them. You have just mapped out how Namibia have rolled out the infrastructures and so on. But the problem is not connectivity alone. And you have said it well that, yes, CRAN cannot do it alone. The thinking is this infrastructure, like even the 30% in Opua, what is the optimal usage? What is the adoption of that infrastructure? Where X operator invests millions. Go to my village, I'm telling you now, no one is online. We have a 3G mobile tower. There will be a lot of excuses. And this comes into an ASA framework. ASA means access, skills, and attitude. These three things determine the uptake or the adoption of certain digital services, especially in the rural areas. Even here in Windhoek, most of us use this data for social media. Even students, you get 15 gigs per month. Half of that goes to social media. You can log in tutorials and so on. The issue is how to make use of this infrastructure that people get the benefits that derive from this infrastructure. It's very critical. And in Namibia, our adoption of ICT, I'm not talking about being on social media, the real adoption to get the real benefit from it is still minimum. A person will even think of going to the bank while you have everything in your head, but sometimes it's awareness, like I said, it's attitude. Attitude goes with an awareness. It goes to cultural norms and other stereotypes that even cybercrimes, some people are afraid even to do banking and so on. But that's what we need also to advocate with service providers. Connectivity is not only the towers there. And that goes that when you put those towers, what are the community needs and aspirations? Do we determine that beforehand? Or we do it the top-down approach? Yeah, there are 3 communities. The ministry have said connect rural communities. Who are these rural communities? First, you have to prioritize where are the needs. Maybe I will go first whether it is a school or whether it's a clinic, because these people need quick services maybe to connect. So we need to do a survey of community aspirations and needs before we roll out these infrastructures. I might sound that this infrastructure might end up as white elephant if adoption of these digital services is not optimal. That's my comment. The issue of yes, CRAN cannot do it alone, I understand. The issue of infrastructure sharing, I also want to rephrase it and say, maybe we must do it infrastructure partnership. Because the approach also is not fair. At setup, you come and roll on. Let's engage each other at the initial stage of construction. You invest, I invest, isn't it? Then we all do it. Then now I put up my tower, you want to come on board. You understand? There is also other dynamics at play. So let's call it maybe a partnership from the beginning. I know MTC has more than 100 and something towers to roll out. Why can't we begin at the initial stage that you add your money, you add your cent, I add my cent, we go together. Then I first set up, then you roll on. It's a bit also problematic in terms of competition and other dynamics at play. Thank you very much.
Would you like to add on to that? Okay.
Let's start with the issue of literacy. I think I was telling somebody once, I had a very interesting conversation during lunch, and I was saying to her that, look, when people hear ICT, then they think it starts and ends with CRAN. It doesn't. Our role as regulator is access, usage in terms of the right speed, quality, and affordability. But that is not the full value chain of ICT. There is another element, which is literacy. There is another element, which is ensuring that in that fund they put in money and they pay. Each school in Botswana has a computer science teacher who is paid by the fund, and this person is teaching the kids and the community's computer skills. So, and this is why I said at the beginning that if we are truly going to embrace the full benefit, the full and real value chain of ICT, then there is a lot of change management that needs to happen, and there's also a lot of collaboration that we need to do. On the issue of infrastructure sharing, my sister Elizabeth, that argument is the reason why we have duplication of infrastructure, is the reason why we have communities sitting without connectivity. And I want us to understand infrastructure sharing as an economic concept. Remember that the obligation to share infrastructure is not on everybody. It's on dominant operators. And when you are a dominant operator in economic terms, there is a uniqueness about you. There is an added advantage about you. This is why you have achieved that status of being a dominant operator. And we must also remember that infrastructure sharing is not to benefit licensees. Infrastructure sharing is designed to yield benefits for consumers from those that have become dominant. So it's not a tit-for-tat arrangement. It's not if you don't contribute, it's just me that is investing. You are able to invest because of consumer money. The money that the operators have, which enables them to set up all this infrastructure, is consumer money. And this is why the economic arrangement is that as a consumer, for as long as I have bought airtime, I have contributed to the rollout of that infrastructure. And hence, I must never find myself in a village where I'm unable to use services because you are holding on to infrastructure that has been funded by consumer money. And I think it's that particular school of thought that is holding the industry back and that is leaving consumers without services. And we have had it many times, but that is not what economic theory is saying. And this is why we are also saying that it's also not unique to the ICT industry. If you are with a bank, wherever you go, except if you just don't want the additional charge, you must be able to withdraw money. So this is why, for us, I think we are saying infrastructure must be shared, and reciprocity is not and will never be a requirement.
A couple of questions. The first one is, you mentioned about discussions where you met with operators and asking them the prices to come down. What follows after that? But because I know a business will not voluntarily just decide to lower my price if there is nothing that enforces me to do that. That's number one. The other is the Universal Service Fund. Yes, we are aware of all of the issues that has brought the fund where it is right now. I mean, through my many other hats, in engaging with the operators, it seems that the fund isn't communicated to them in a way that they see value in investing. So is there a way? I think I had a conversation here about disabilities. We had a lot of conversation here about gender and ICT. Is there a way that we could see those as values and sell those for them to be the 4G statistics. We have 79% there, and you have, yeah, it's just a bit conflicting. I have other sources of this data, and I think this is also a problem in our country. We have so many data that is not speaking to one, and it would look like, as a researcher, and I think this is something that can be shared by other people, that you could be seen as lying or presenting, information that is not factual. So maybe just where do you get this? How regularly updated is it? What is the most reliable for the public to get it from CRAN? Is it better to take CRAN's data or ITU's data? It is always that confusion for us. I have so many questions, Emilia, but I think we will find our ways to engage one-on-one or through other formats. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Naji. Franz, briefly. This is the final question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Emilia. Honestly, I think you have really done justice to that topic. I usually don't speak like that, but I feel you have done justice to the topic. Maybe what I pick up, maybe something that I want you to engage. You see, I take it that we are really, in terms of, we are behind the curve, really, compared to other countries, in terms of, and our, it's kind of expensive, and we are behind. I'm trying to understand really what is really the problem? Why our internet is expensive? Maybe just some ideas around that, especially the mobile broadband. You say it's quite expensive, and I think for me it doesn't really. I need something that one could at least understand. It doesn't make sense to me.
Me too.
The other point really that I feel like maybe, especially the colleagues from the Ministry of ICT, I see when we hear the presentation from CRAN here, what Ms. Emilia is saying to us, you have your children, you are the ministry responsible for communication in the country, and then you have operators or institutions that you set up, so to say. And the other one now CRAN wants even to enter the domain of providing services in terms of to school. But this is known by the ministry. Whether it's MTs, whether it's telecom, whether it's whoever. But it seems like I don't have a better words to describe this, but I just want you colleagues, this is how we are failing the nation. Because it's known, if we don't do anything, and then if you escalate the discussion, you go in the continent, we are behind, and it doesn't make any sense why we have expensive internet, and then it's only concentrated on a certain company or institution. So I feel really we are not doing justice, and as a ministry, we must provide leadership to this issue. It cannot be resolved otherwise. It's only the ministry that is able to provide leadership. And really provide leadership to, because for me this is where I see the problem. The whole morning I was here, this is the topic presentation that gave me kind of it's an antidote to all the crises that we are facing as far as telecommunication and technology crisis in the country is concerned. This is what's providing the information. And I feel like, honestly, when I see the president, I will tell him, my president, the issue is the ministry.
Thank you.
It's nothing else, it's the ministry. I'm not joking. These things I will convey even in my own personal capacity to say no. So, colleagues, that is my view.
Thank you. We'll continue it on other platforms online.
Yes.
Nghikembua, just so we can also let you go, you can answer the final few questions.
Okay. I think the universal service has been reluctance for us, at least based on the information that we have, is not so much that there is a lack of understanding on the benefits. I think there is a reluctance to pay their dues into the fund so that we can receive the services that they are supposed to provide. The sources of data, this is based on our GIS system. It's updated every quarter, and it's based on coverage statistics that we get from the operators. It's also based on the ITU parameters, and it's the same information that we submit to ITU as a country report and also to SADC. On the issue of the internet being expensive, we are also currently studying it to find out why. Some of the issues that we are picking up is a lack of competition, because when you have one operator that has 91% market share, then you don't really have a competitive environment. And one of the symptoms of a lack of competition is always high prices. The other issue that we are also picking up is the backhaul cost for the provision of, telecommunication services. So it appears those backhaul costs are also very high, and then it's passed on to the consumer, which makes the retail price also very, very high. So I think that is really the long and short of it.
Thank you.